I believe this is the only woman that doesn't need an introduction, or maybe she just didn't want to send me a bio. This is probably one of the most interesting women in the world because you're going to have to research her. We're going to have some collateral on the bio for you to be able to check out. But an incredibly interesting woman with twists and turns. And what I love about her is that, number one, she has the wit that will take anybody down. But also the story behind it is so incredible. We met, it's probably been about 2 years ago when she told me she didn't want to be on the podcast right before she was supposed to be on the podcast.
Not true.
But we met through a friend, and I joked with her about it because she had a couple of things that she had to reschedule, which we get a chance to be able to talk about, as we go. And you'll think that I'm a very insensitive individual because I joke with this woman as much as possible. Any person that meets her feels like they've known her for years and years. She's not one to put on a front. She's one that will just tell it how it is. And that's the type of people we want to be around. She's got a top-ranked podcast that she told me that was better than mine. She continues to tell me that all the time. But it is my honor and my pleasure to bring to you Janae Thompson. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
12.5 million people tuning in. I think 16 children. Just moved a hurricane. Don't call it hurricane. How do all those things connect, Janae?
Well, first of all, let me say there's only one reason Kelly would give me an introduction like that. And it's because, as you can see, his head looks bigger than mine. And that's because it is. But he is one to elevate those around him so that it looks like that is not the case. And that's what I appreciate about Kelly the most, is the way he elevates those around him. So thank you for that intro, Kelly.
Well, I love it. And if you got a chance to be able to be at the Vibe Room, anybody that was there the last time, you got a chance to be able to meet Janae. And to meet Janae is incredible, unless you waited till the end because she had a place to go, because she's probably the busiest woman on the planet. But it was incredible to be able to sit down with you and laugh and back and forth. I think some people, Janae, seriously, I think some people in the audience, they didn't know how to take us because they were like, oh my gosh, are they being serious with each other as they joke back and forth?
Right. Okay, so we know Kelly will crush it and he'll crush anybody. But then, I just kept giving it back to you and they're like, oh my gosh, is it okay for her to be that mean to him? And I was like, Kelly, are you okay? Can you take it? Like, your feelings aren't hurt, right? Because I love you.
Well, I love that part of it. Where do you think that comes from? I mean, because the sarcasm part of it, but it's the sarcasm and the wit and how quick you are. And I saw you not only, I thought that I was special because we got a chance to be able to talk at Secret Knock.
I
And
think
we were
you're special.
Well, thank you. My mom told me that all the time.
I know. We've talked about it, her and I.
We were back and forth, and then I just saw the way that you interact with people, and I just think it's so. I think it's so cool. And your co-host Josh, you elevate him too. You're constantly pumping him up, giving him. Where did this wit come from?
I would venture to say I was born with it. It didn't come out until I had experienced all the things in life that break you down to the lowest point, that you realize there is nothing that comes into life and brings more joy than just accepting reality and embracing it in joy. So it's not about like, oh, my life's been so hard and, now I'm going to make a joke about it. It's just really coming to this place of feeling like, you know what? The cliche, I'm not going to take life so seriously. I take life very fucking seriously. And at the same time, you can't take it seriously. So it's like this dichotomy of a balance between accepting reality as it is, and at that point choosing to laugh about it, and then really really being fucking serious about, I'm going to get shit done and I'm going to do it right. And then like my personal key factor in that is I truly feel like love is the answer. Okay, I am a romantic, I will admit it. And I've noticed that because for the last 3 days, every single song I have played is a country love song. And I didn't realize this, but I know every single word to every single sappy country love song. So I am a romantic. That being said, it's this place that you come from of truly love, where you can love every single person for who they are, but also for their good qualities, and embrace the qualities that are, the scratchy ones. And it doesn't mean you love that about the person or whatever, but it's this ability to come from a place of true hearted love. And I also feel like that comes from learning what it feels like to lose love, learning what it feels like to have loss, to have failure, to try your best and have everything blow up in your fucking face, and still take a minute to be really mad about it and like irritated and angry and scratchy, and then find a smile from that place. How's that for an answer?
Well, I love it, and most of the time when you hear that, people see it and they're in a good spot, or things have
Sure.
gone really well, and then they'll tell you that. With your situation, like the thing that I love about it is in the face of adversity, and you've been through a lot of it, right? And in that adversity, you still have stayed who you are, but also when you're challenged, you just talk about it.
Yeah. And I
You
think that's one of the biggest keys is, we were kind of joking back and forth about the Utah culture. And I did grow up in Utah and the predominant religion there. And not to make this about religion whatsoever, but I I grew up in an environment, and this isn't a reflection of my parents. My parents are amazing people, but we all come from a place of where we're at. And I feel like the culture that I came from is put on a happy face. If you're not happy, don't talk about it, just get happy. And it's not that my parents taught me those things, or they were like, oh, how you feel doesn't matter. My parents were very good people in like, like they cared about how I felt. But also, when you're in an environment where it's like, no, we have to put on a show and we have to look like we're happy all the time, and we have to appear as if we're the perfect family and the perfect temperament and the perfect this and the perfect that. And by no means did we even look perfect, but it was still that idea. Just kind of, let's gloss over the scratchy, hard parts of reality. Let's not talk about, why the neighbor's daughter is sneaking out and then we find out she's pregnant. Like just things that are like, okay, these are the facts of life. And instead of judging and, saying that they made a bad choice, now I look at it as, let's embrace all situations as they are presented without trying to control them or change them. And I learned how truly controlling I was, because it's not like, a lot of times you think of men are controlling and women are emotional. Well, actually, I learned women are much more controlling in some ways. And I don't mean to make this about gender, and I'm doing major overgeneralizations here. Okay. So bear with me on this. But it's like, if I don't tell you how I feel, and you're my friend, Kelly, the reason I'm not telling you how I feel is because I'm trying to control how you're going to react to me. And that's not my job. My job is to give you the information and allow you to be an autonomous human being and decide how you're going to feel about how I feel. So Kelly likes to tease me that I was invited on his podcast and then I didn't come on, and it's true, but it's not because I didn't want to. And that's what Kelly will tell you. And that's not true. And on the day that I was invited to go on Kelly's podcast, we had it all planned out. It was just like today. And even today he's texting me. He's like, 2 minutes before we were supposed to start, are you still coming on the podcast? And I almost texted him back and be like, was that today? You know what? I'm not feeling that good. Sorry, Kelly. But I figured I've given him enough heart attack already. So I restrained myself on that one. But on that day, so we were supposed to go on, let's say 11 o'clock, right? Which is the time we're on today at my time, actually 10 o'clock. But so it's like 8 o'clock and I'm like sobbing, like and I can't even control my emotions. It's just one of those days I'm so depressed. I can't stop crying. And then it's 9 o'clock and I'm like, okay, 2 more hours till I'm supposed to be on Kelly's show. I can pull this together and I can go on the show. And then 10 o'clock comes and I'm still just sobbing, like on the floor, haven't put makeup on, my face is swollen. So finally, I just call Kelly and I'm like, look, can't come on the show. This is not the version of me that you want on your show. And I'm doing this for you, Kelly. This is all about you because you got to make it about Kelly to make it, seem like it's what he wants. And this is where, we can get into, this is how you manipulate a situation to make it work for you, right? So I manipulate Kelly, I control him. No, I'm just kidding. But like at that point, a lot of people would be like, oh, I'm just going to go on because I committed, and I'm just going to pretend like I'm fine. And sometimes you can do that. Sometimes it's okay. But in reality, if I did that and I showed up on Kelly's show and I was a piece of garbage shell of the human that I generally try to be, but that's the reality of that moment. It's not my best. It's not really what I want to give Kelly in the show. And so at that point, I just made a decision, like, I've got to tell Kelly that this is not, as much as I want to just push through it, it's not the right thing. And so then 5 years later, I finally showed up on his show.
I wanted to give the precursor before you went into it, because now I seem like the most insensitive person in the world. And this is our relationship. This is our friendship where, the joking back and forth. And what I love about you most, and I have never expressed this before, is one of the things I love about you is most of the cliches that people say in life, you actually live. And when you talk about like living in the moment and you never know what can happen and your life can change in a moment and other things like that, you actually lived that. Can you talk a little bit about your life changing in a moment and how you were able to react to it and what you're dealing with now?
Yeah. So I want to address the cliches because it's so true. Like cliches are so cliche, but they're always fucking true. And the reason people use these cliches is because it's a scapegoat, right? It's like, oh, well, it is what it is, or whatever cliche they use. And it's like, well, yeah, it's true. It is what it is. But you're just saying that because you don't want to accept it and you're not willing to accept it. So you're using that as an excuse to move on without dealing with it. And when I say it is what it is, it's like, yep, it is what it is. And I'm not saying everybody does that, right? But so often cliches become cliches because we don't truly believe them. So I won't use a cliche unless I really truly believe it and can show that I'm exercising it in reality. So so back to my story, I had basically the perfect life. Like if you look at Kelly and you think of a perfect person, then that's what my life was at one point. And then it all blew to shit. And so, that's why Kelly has better hair than me even now. But
Janae,
like
Janae, I wish that we had, like, for the people that are watching on YouTube, I want to thank you. For the people watching on Spotify, I want to thank you. For the people listening on Apple, I wish that we just had a buzzer that was like, she's being sarcastic. You know what I mean? Because I can see it and I know you, and I love that about you. Just continue on, but I just want to tell you.
But here's the thing. Okay, she's being sarcastic. Yes, I do use sarcasm, but like, I'm actually not being sarcastic right now. I truly believe Kelly has better hair than me. So I'm not joking. You really have better hair than like the majority of people because it's so fucking cool. Okay. That being said, like my hair's nice and straight and long and blah, blah, blah. But you look at Kelly's hair, that's fucking great hair. Okay. So that was not sarcasm. That was reality. But I get in trouble. And my husband would always say this to me, like, until he realized I use sarcasm, but most of the time when I use that voice, I'm actually being serious. And I've had to learn how to like use the sarcasm voice a little bit better because I was actually being serious. And this might be like, I don't know, some kind of neurodivergent way of thinking that I have. But But anyway, I've learned that my tone of voice sounds sarcastic when I'm not actually being sarcastic. And that's why people think I'm funny when I'm really, really actually not funny. But that's also another topic. Okay. So back to my perfect life, like Kelly's perfect hair. And then how all of a sudden I had the most horrific bad hair day. Like, I'm just trying to make this analogous to if this were in Kelly's life, perfect hair. And then all of a sudden, like, someone comes and shaves all that beautiful hair off, and you're like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, do you know how long it took me to grow this out and to have dreadlocks that look this fantastic? You don't just like get that back in a second, right? Like, this is going to take years to rebuild. So, I did everything I was told. I got married at 25, first baby at 26, bought my first house as a single girl at 23, like very responsible, got roommates to pay for my house so that I lived in this nice house for free. And I, of course, took the biggest room for myself while my roommates paid all the mortgage and I got the best room. It's like, this is ideal. And then I met my husband. He was doing the same thing. And, so immediately we were like attracted, like, oh my gosh, you're my soulmate. And, of course, we both felt like this is a match made in heaven. Like, we're best friends. The second we met, we spent every single day together, like 4 to 12 hours a day from the day we met till the day we got married. Like, we were just inseparable from the moment we met. And it was amazing. And when I met this human being, I was just like, seriously, like, if someone was made for me, if I was made for someone, it's me and him, right? And you only dream about that type of thing. So then as we dated, we started thinking and looking at, couples that had been married for years and years. And we noticed something about couples. The longer they stay together, the less happy they seem together. I don't know if that's like generally the case, but we're looking at each other, all starry eyed with hearts coming out of our eyes towards each other. And we're like, well, we want it to be like this forever, and naively thinking that that's truly possible. We decided, you know what, let's go find the happiest couples that have been together the longest, and let's go interview them and find out what their secrets to success are. So we did that. So, like, we've been dating a year, and we found these couples that we loved and admired and respected, and we sat them down and we're like, can you tell us about your love and why you guys still love each other, and like, what have you done to keep your relationship strong over time, and what are the secrets to success in marriage? Because we're thinking about getting married. We weren't engaged, we were just dating. And they sat down and they gave us all the secrets to success. And it was such a unique way to approach dating, and Grant and I kind of did that with everything that we did. It's like, we want to do something, let's go find successful people that do that, and let's find out how they did it. And so, we interviewed all these couples, probably about 10, and then we got engaged, and then we got married 3 weeks later. So, like, we were engaged for 3 weeks, and this was kind of a romantic story. He was a pilot and I was a flight attendant at the time. That's not how we met. We met because we bought homes next to each other. And then I became a flight attendant when I found out he was a pilot, because I'd always wanted to be a flight attendant. And I figured that would be the best way to stalk him during our dating and ship is if I became a flight attendant. So then I could fly all over the country following him around, make sure he's not, fucking around with other flight attendants. But I'm just kidding. That was sarcasm. But I did truly become a flight attendant because it was something I always wanted to do. And he did help me get me hired. Funny story. We only flew together once the whole time we were dating, because I was like way under his seniority. So he got all the good trips. I didn't get the good ones. But the one trip I got, one of his flight attendants wanted to give it away. So he called me and he's like, hey, come take this trip. But because it's a senior trip, which means it's really good location, good hours, good pay, they usually sell them. It's this whole like airline thing culture, which we don't need to get into, but I ended up taking the trip for her, and then I was like, oh my gosh, these trips are amazing. So we flew together and, it was really cool, but I didn't actually stalk him, just to be clear. So we got married. We started this business, which was not what we intended to do, but we started recording videos for YouTube. And back in the day, YouTube didn't exist. There was no such thing as a YouTuber. And we heard of this one guy who's making like $100,000 on YouTube, and YouTube wasn't even monetized at the time, right? So you couldn't like put videos up, but it was this brand new business model, and it wasn't a business. It was just meant to like help people share their home videos, right? YouTube, what it is now, that was not what the inception of it was meant to be. But of course, as things do, they take on a life of their own, an idea is planted, and you have no idea what really is going to become of the seeds you plant, which again, this is very indicative of or reflective of how life actually goes, is like you plant the seeds of your ideas and your goals and your plans. And then, who knows what happens. It's a crapshoot every time. But like Grant and I approached our marriage, it's like you have a lot of control over creating more of the outcome that you plan than you think you do, you know? But if you're just like, oh, hey, let's get married and throw caution to the wind, like, let's just see what happens. If you approach marriage like that, it's most likely not going to turn out that well. And you guys are going to get sick of each other because you're not putting in, that effort to really truly get to know one another and come up with mutual goals and create a life together. If you're just kind of reacting all the time, your outcomes are going to be less desirable. That's just how life works, right? But at the same time, like in my situation, what I'm about to tell you, you don't have control over everything. You have control over a lot. And I, as a very controlling person, like to think I can control anything because I'm a very phone call. Forgot to silence that.
It's okay.
I apologize.
Hey, Janae, but you're going through it, the TKOR, which is the King of Random, the YouTube that you're talking about. The thing that, and I love this about you because you won't say it because I'll say it.
Go ahead.
Currently there's 12.5 million, or actually 12.6 million people that are subscribed to the channel. You and your husband have been viewed over 3.6 billion times.
That's billion with a B.
Billion.
Yeah.
Billion. And I'll say it again. Now that's not like you just are like, oh yeah, we started this thing. It was, it was YouTube, and then we just moved on and yada, yada, yada. Don't yada, yada, yada me. I mean, 12.5, that's a legitimate TV station.
Right. It is. And it blows me away every time I think about it, because once we broke down the minutes that have been viewed, and I mean, that's like a bazillion minutes that have, but we broke it down, and it's like people have viewed our content. It's the equivalent to like hundreds of years, maybe thousands at this point. I don't remember what the math is, but I was thinking about that and thinking in terms of how can you exponentialize your impact on the earth? And that is a really impactful way to think about, the work that we've created has been exponentialized in more lifetimes than either Grant or I could even live. And we've created more lifetimes that we've been able to share. Like, isn't that mind blowing?
Yeah. It's unreal. I mean, and most people that are around you, they'll see it and they'll be like, and I generally don't lead with it. That's the reason why I didn't lead with it this morning on the show. Because when I lead with it, then someone's going to be like, oh my gosh, can you give me the magic beans real quick, Janae? Can you tell me in 3 steps how to create a channel that's going to have 12.6 million and get 3.6 billion views? Can you do that quickly?
Yeah, and I can, but I won't give you those 3 steps here because what seems simple is very simple, and just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. And that's where people get tripped up is, how to have a good, loving marriage and relationship is very simple, but it is extremely difficult to create that because it takes so much dedication and commitment. So the steps are the same. You want to lose weight, exercise, eat right, watch your stress. There's a few other nuanced things, but it's like, I mean, if you're eating junk food all the time and you're sitting on the couch, you're never going to get in shape, right? If you are ignoring your wife or your husband or your spouse every day, you're not going to have a happy relationship. If you make content when you feel like it, you're not going to have 12 million followers. So, I do have those 3 steps. But this is where it's like, not to make this biblical whatsoever, but you can throw pearls before swine. And I'm not saying anybody out there is swine, but it's like, if you really want to know that, you have to find the answer to that yourself. So I can give you a couple, 3 little sentences, but if you're not ready for it, what you're going to do when I tell you those 3 things is you're going to be like, oh, well, yeah, yeah, I know that if you do that, it would work. But here's 10 reasons why I can't and don't do that. So it's like, okay, you know what? Why did I even waste my breath telling you? Because you really didn't want to know. Ugh.
That's honestly, that's, and I don't know if I've ever told you, but that's the reason why I generally won't lead with, and if I introduce you on something, that I don't lead with that, because of that side of it. So continue. I interrupted. Actually, it was your phone that interrupted because you didn't put it on silent before we started.
Put it on silent. So
you should put it on speaker, and we should just answer the phone calls.
You know what? That was one of my local realtor friends here, and he's got some rental properties. I'm sure because I bought my first house at 23, and guess what? I'm still doing the same fucking things 25 years later. Like, imagine that consistency. Wow. It works every time. So, but here's the other thing I want to address with, you know, my concept of throwing pearls before swine. You do have to really want it. You have to be ready for it. And if you really want it, you're going to find it no matter what. If I don't tell you, you're going to find it from somebody else who has the answer. Because if you want something, you can find the person that has all the answers. And if they don't share it, or if, you know, or if they die, or if they go out, you will find another person or another source that will give you those answers. Now, where I want to go with this is consistency obviously is one of the keys, but what happens when you truly commit to something, it becomes a lifestyle. And so then it's not a secret, but it's a way of being. And I had something really extra profound I was going to say, and it just escaped my mind. Because, you know, probably because you interrupted me this time.
Probably you didn't believe it. That's what my wife says. She says, if you forget it, then it was just a lie anyway.
I like that. See, and you know, we do lie to ourselves all the time. That's also something I've really scrupulously worked on with myself because, you know, I realize I do lie to myself more often than I realized. And I just remembered what it is. So if you lead on a podcast or, you know, introducing yourself, oh, you know, Janae has 12 million followers. Well, the truth is, I didn't do that by myself. The other truth is, my husband and I created this show together, and we were very intertwined in it. And it's gone through many different seasons and changes. And yes, when someone hears, oh my gosh, 12.6 million followers, that's amazing. Like if I heard someone had 12.6 million followers, I'd be like, damn, you must be an amazing person. Not just because I know what that takes, but because that's an incredible accomplishment. And very few people can say that they have created something like that. So it's impressive, right? But this is what I wanted to say. And this is the most important thing that I will say on this podcast today. So get ready for this. Is that, are you ready, Kelly? Okay, he's got his hands up.
I'm ready.
He's backed up in his chair. He's ready. Put on your listening ears. That's what I tell my kids. This is important. Your successes do not define you. Oh, it's another cliche. But here, I'm going to take it further. Your failures also do not define you. So now I'm going to go back to what happened. The tragedy in my life is that my husband passed away. He was killed in a paragliding accident in 2019. So it's been 5 years now. And this is why the last time I was supposed to be on Kelly's show, I was crying and, you know, like I was just having a bad day. When you have something so traumatic that happens in your life, or you have loss, or you have, you know, these really intensely difficult situations, everybody that's been through something difficult, and this is where everybody listening, you know what the difficult thing is in your life. When you're processing through that, you have good days and bad days, right? And I try to have as many good days as possible. And that doesn't mean I can force the good days. And when the bad days hit, they hit with a vengeance. And sometimes it's everything you can do to just get out of bed. And that was one of those days. And the thing is you cannot control and predict when those days are going to happen and why they happen and what potentially triggers you. You know, you can learn all the things about yourself. And, you know, when I walk past my husband's clothes in the closet, that triggers me. And then I start to have a bad day. Okay, I can take that into account, and maybe it's time to clean out his closet so that doesn't happen anymore, right? Like there are elements of your situation that you can control and you can learn to work with so you're not triggered, and so that you can process your difficult things in life better. But when you're going through these things, you do not have control over the good days and the bad days fully. And so on that day, and this is where I want to give even more praise to Kelly, because, you know, I canceled, what was it, like an hour before the show, or maybe 10 minutes or 5 minutes before we were supposed to go on. It was just, I mean, it was a very short amount of time, but, you know, Kelly did not get upset. He wasn't like, oh, why couldn't you have told me sooner? Or, you know, you messed up my whole day. None of that. So he wasn't this insensitive guy that he jokes about. He was so compassionate in that moment. He was like, hey, no problem. Let's talk about it. Can I pray for you? Let's just have a conversation. Because even in that moment when I called him and I was like, I'm so sorry, I can't be on your show today. I can't stop crying. I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, I do know what's wrong with me. That's not true. I always know, right? But, you know, it wasn't anything negative. It was just like complete empathetic compassion. And, you know, and then we stopped and he said this prayer for me, and we moved on. And Kelly, in that moment, you accepted reality and you rolled with it. And I'm sure you were planning to go live and your audience was planning a live show, and you didn't show up because your guest didn't show up. Or maybe you showed up and you just were like, hey, it's me. And everyone's like, really? But, you know, it's those moments in life that truly show us as human beings the humanity within each other. And so, yeah, that, like, things didn't go as planned, but how much better is our show today because we can share those experiences. And in that moment, I wasn't thinking of that, you know, because Kelly wouldn't give me the link to his show to come back on for like 3 years, because he's like, I'm not inviting you on again. You're going to cancel last minute. But no, that's not true either. But, you know, like, in that moment, I wasn't thinking this is going to make my relationship with Kelly, as our friendship grows, stronger. And this is going to make the content that we create on his podcast better. That's not what I was thinking. And yet, because we were both able to embrace reality and accept it for what it was and make the best of it, and then even smile about it, because how many times have we laughed about that and joked about how, you know, like I stood you up, and, you know, and then Kelly was such a jerk because, like, dude, I lost my husband, I had a bad day, like, give me some grace. And the reality is he did give me grace.
Don't do me that way. Don't do it. That's
I know, what a jerk. Gosh, Kelly.
So when you go through something like this, you know, and you go through a tragedy, and this is probably the hardest thing, because there's the side of the people that are your friends and your family, and they want to say something. And so they just say random stuff sometimes. Yeah. And one of the sayings that, and we go back to the cliche part, is everything happens for a reason. This is a thing that a lot of, like, when I lost my dad, when I lost my pop, like, I didn't lose him. I knew where he went. My mom, when she went to heaven and my dad went to heaven, people were like, things happen for a reason. And I was thinking,
like, yeah, they happened because my dad was sick, or because, you know, they happened for the reasons they happen, you idiot. That's what I always like to say.
So
it's like, yeah, your husband died. Everything happens for a reason. Yeah, he was fucking paragliding and hit a wind eddy like a fucking idiot and crashed. You know, it's like, that's why it happened.
How long does it take for you to be able to put comedy to the thing before, like, is there a time frame for you generally, or is it a case by case? Because for me, I find the quicker that I make a joke about it, the quicker I'm able to start moving through it. But that's just my scenario.
So what you're saying, Kelly, is you're using that as a defense mechanism to not face your shit. Okay.
Yes.
So you joke through it.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what I will say about that. For me, I'm not saying for Kelly. Once I accept it, and I'm like, there's nothing I can do to change it, that's when I can joke about it. And that takes a level of processing, because if I haven't accepted it and I'm not dealing with the feelings and the emotions I have, then I could be avoiding it. And if I'm making jokes because I'm trying to avoid things, that would be indicative of someone who's not emotionally stable, Kelly, just so you know.
Well, and I tell you, I think that I was very blessed to be in the profession that I'm in as far as the speaking aspect. So I find like a lot of people, which therapy I think is amazing. For my therapy generally is my audience. And so I like to blend in the keynote side comedy, and I like to, I mean, I always want to blend the reality. That's the way I've been able to, I find that once I say it publicly,
Mm-hmm.
and I make a jet in jest, but I make sure that the audience, because I don't want the audience to take on my stuff. It's just
Sure.
like, and I watch you with this. I don't know if you do it on purpose, but when you talk about, say, I mean, you lost your husband in an instant. Like you have, how many boys do you have? You have 4 boys?
I have 4 children, all boys,
Okay.
and
So
they were all 10 and under. My baby was 2 when I lost my husband. So, I mean, this is seriously heavy stuff. Like, I can't even convey the sense of loss that that creates. And yet, I've got several jokes about fatherless children I can just, shoot off right now.
but I want to compliment you, because whenever you tell the story, it's almost as if you pad the landing for the audience. I've
Hmm.
never seen you, because there's some people who will just dump something and
Hmm.
they leave the audience or the person that they're talking to almost feel as if, like, I almost feel, I don't know how to feel right now. Whereas when you're talking with you about it, it's not that you're making light of it, or we feel from an audience standpoint that you're in a defense mechanism or you're not dealing with it. You just make it a soft landing for us. Is that something that you're conscious of?
I would I would venture to say yes, and there's a couple reasons why I would say yes, I do. Because first of all, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. That is
Mm.
not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to look like a victim and be like, oh, poor Janae, she's a widow. Now, I will use it to my advantage if I need to.
Do you get better parking? Do you get better
Yeah,
parking with
exactly.
it? Yeah.
Or if I can get a better deal on, like my handyman services, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I wish my husband could do that, but, he's gone. So if you could just do that project for me." And then they're like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I'll just charge you 30 an hour. I usually do 50, but free." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." Okay, manipulation again, right? But in all seriousness, that's only slight sarcasm. I'm not going to say that I have not done something like that. But like in the context of my whole life, I do not want to appear as a victim, because the truth is I am not a victim. I have I live a I am the victim of my circumstances, but I don't have to be a victim in my life, right? Like, it is really difficult and hard to live a life as a widow, raise 4 kids on your own, especially they're boys that act just like their father, and he should sure as hell be here to keep them in line, and he doesn't. And I'm not going to say I'm not over that yet, because I'm still mad at him for that, right? But at the same time, what I don't want is to feel like that icky feeling of like, oh, it's so hard, I can't do it, I don't want to. No, that's not how I think. If something can't be done, you tell me why it can't be done, and I'll show you 10 ways why it can and how to do it. And my husband and I were both really a lot like this. And if you watch the YouTube channel, especially the early videos where Grant was, the primary host, he will show you a fucking thousand ways to do something. And you just didn't know that was possible, and you didn't think that way. And that's why the show gained so much momentum, is because we had this mindset of like, how can we do this? Why does it say on the warning label, don't do this? Well, let's do it and see what happens. Oh, that's why it says don't do that. And so now that I know that and I have that information, I can also now show you 10 other safe ways to do it, because I know why not to do it, right? And so it's the same thing in life again and again. The more you know and understand, and the deeper you question things, the better understanding you have to be able to approach any topic, any situation, any relationship, any situationship, anything in your life in such a deeply connected, effective way. It's just like magical. And if I were to say, do you know the secret to life? And not just the secret of life, but like how to make it magical? Yeah, I do. Ask questions and keep asking until you get the answers that you're looking for. And like, wow, it is magical what you can discover in this life. And so, back to your question, I am not a victim. I don't need to tell people, oh, yeah, my husband died, and then just wait for them and, say, do you feel sorry for me? because it's really hard. Like, ew, gross. Like if I was talking to someone like that, even if it was another fellow widow, I'd be like, that sounds really hard. Bye. Like I'm not even going to go into my story because I know how you feel. Like I can't, like I cannot even meet you there because it's so cringy to think you want me to feel sorry for you. And this is again going back to, I don't want to control the audience. I don't want to say, my husband died. Now I'm saying that because I want you to feel sorry for me. So I'm controlling you. That's disgusting. I want you to be able to autonomously decide how you feel about your situation. And the other thing that I think is really important when sharing these really difficult situations that we all have is I'm not the only one that's lost something. People out there have had more horrific and tragic losses than I have. And it's not a comparison. And, somebody also down the street may have just lost their dog. And to them, they feel like they lost their husband and they know exactly how they feel. And in their world, they're suffering just as much as I feel like I am. And who am I to say, oh, my loss is way harder than yours? Like you just lost your dog. Like, I wish all I had lost was my dog. Like how inconsiderate would that be of me for someone else who in their world may feel the depth of loss to the degree of their understanding as I do in that moment. Like who am I to judge, somebody else's loss? And so when I pat it, the reason I'm patting it is because I truly want anybody that I connect with to be able to connect on a level of like being able to relate their own situation in their life to my situation, not because I want it to be about my situation, but because my objective in that is to teach how possible it is to overcome that and become better and learn from your situation. Because I feel like one of the things I'm called to do in this life, or maybe just have a propensity to do, is to teach. And how do you teach? It's through stories. And my story is intimate to me, so I can use that story and it can teach someone a lot about their own emotions and their own situation and how to deal with that in a new and better way by seeing something in a different way. And the only way to do that is to be able to ask so many fucking questions that you become the most annoying person in the room sometimes. But then it allows you to have this deep understanding. If I ask you 1,000 questions, which I'm not asking you questions today, but, like when we get together, one of the things I like to do is ask questions about other people. And I've asked a lot of questions about Kelly, which is why I know, a little bit about, how you operate and how you do things, because I love to know somebody else and how they are motivated and what brings them joy. And, do they make a joke so that they don't have to face their emotions, or do they make a joke because they're actually really processing in that moment? And by me joking back, I can actually help you process your shit. Like when I know that about you, I get to love you in a deeper way. And so I don't ever want to come across as something other than how can I help you? And that's not because I'm altruistic. I'm very selfish. Okay. So I want to be clear about that. but in my selfishness, and this isn't me saying, oh, let me turn this around and show you how, how in an interview, they're like, well, what questions do you have for me? It's like, oh, well, or no, that interview question, what do you see as your weaknesses? It's like, well, I'm late all the time, but because I'm late all the time, I realized I have to be 10 minutes early. So I'm always 10 minutes early now. So you like flip it around, right? And then it's like, okay, so that wasn't a weakness, like whatever. But when I can connect with somebody and I watch their eyes like brighten up with like, oh, I never thought of it that way. I know that I'm changing their life and their perspective and how they think about something. And that's so gratifying to me that from a selfish perspective, I'm like, yeah, I did it again, bitches. I'm so cool. But I don't do it for that. I do it because I really, really love it. And like I said in the beginning, I truly believe that as far as I am capable and my understanding of what love is, that is my favorite place to reside because it feels good to me. So selfishly, I want to feel that as much as I can. And when I can live close to, my purpose in life, which is one of them is to teach and to help somebody see something in a different perspective. And then I see it light up their face and their eyes. And I'm like, yeah, bitches, I did it again. I'm so good at this thing that I do. It's this whole cycle of, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is really working. And connecting with people is so gratifying and fulfilling. And it makes life fun. And then I can joke about it too, because then we're all laughing. And what that comes down to is when we're laughing together, that is the point of human life and the humanity of joy, like that I feel like we're meant to be in and we're not in enough. So there you go. There's the answer.
So I know you have to catch a plane. I want a second interview. I want a third interview. I want to tell you that you have got sharper. You were sharp at the Vibe Room. I mean, incredible. People absolutely loved you. And I was thinking, like, how could she be better? You were better today. Like you were better today. You are, I mean, it is amazing how you've honed in. I started the podcast because of my two kids, Maddox and McKenna. Maddox plays sports. McKenna's in the theater and the arts. What advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna? And if you could call yourself Auntie Janae, it would be awesome.
Auntie Janae. Okay, not like anti Janae, like we don't want Janae, but like auntie, like I'm the aunt.
Auntie. You can say auntie then. I guess we can say auntie. Okay.
Because sometimes I'm like, I'm anti Janae today. I'm not going to be myself, and so I went right there first.
Did I say anti? I said auntie.
No, you said auntie, but I heard. See, this is why it's different. This is what I'm going to tell Maddox and McKenna. So your dad might say something and you hear it completely different. Listen to what you say, kids. Listen to your heart. Do not interpret it in dad's words. Okay. Now, on that note, dad is wise. That's the other thing. And here's something that I really want to bring home in that. So, and this is really serious. The word dad is not spoken in our home anymore. And I miss hearing that word. And you guys have a dad. Love him, honor him, and really cherish that you guys have each other, because we don't always know how long that's going to last. So you guys have an amazing dad. You're so blessed that you get to say the word dad. Love your dad, treat him with respect, and know that you're blessed to have a dad, because not everybody does. How about that?
Wow. Thank you. Even though my son told me the other day that I was pushing unk. That's what he said. Yeah. He said, "Pops, you're pushing unk." Yeah, that's just being old. You know what I mean?
I don't always know the kids' words. Does that mean you're getting old? Just so I can.
Yeah, because I said something like, I
or like you're nerdy.
No, it was more like I said some old school stuff, and he was like, "You're pushing unk right now."
You're pushing unk. Okay, you just educated me on another one of the kids' words, because my 11-year-old, he's like bet. He's like, yeah. Do you know what bet means, Mom? I'm like, I think so. It means like, yeah, like, all right. And he's like, yeah, you got it. Okay. So I'm cool enough to know.
So I had two the other day as you go, is my son, I was like, oh man, because we had these little, my wife goes to Trader Joe's and she gets these little tiny ice cream cones. Like they're the little ones. They're not the drumsticks, but they're the little tiny ones. So,
okay, because Trader Joe's at my Trader Joe's, my favorite thing is the dark chocolate little peanut butter cups. I thought you were going there because they're so good. Okay.
I had those too. They're phenomenal. Yeah, actually, the podcast is going to be sponsored by them. So I'll just be eating them the whole time. And
yeah, next time we're on, I'm just going to have a thing of them so I can.
Just going. But the ice cream cones are really small. They're not the size of the drumstick. Like the regular drumstick is like, that's a serving. You have that, you're satisfied. Well, these little ones.
You can eat 10 of them.
Yeah. And so I ate 3 and my son was like, wow, Dad, that's some big backed activity. And I was like,
big
what?
Backed activity.
What did you say? Big backed activity. Yeah.
Okay, got it. See, I'm learning.
Do you know what that means then?
Oh, no, I'm just going to assume out of context. It's like, whoa, you're really like going all in, like you're going overboard, something like that is my guess.
Do you know what big backed is?
Well, I'm guessing the reason I go to the gym and work my booty is similar to that.
Well, no, it would be it would be like if you're big backed, I mean you're big boned. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
and so he was like,
okay, so he's saying like big boy.
Yeah, big backed activity. And so I was like,
not junk in the trunk like you're working that girl. It's like, ooh, you're big boy, husky.
Yes. husky
kid.
activity. Husky
Okay,
activity.
husky
But he
activity.
ain't going to
Got
say
it.
husky
Okay.
at 11.
Well,
So
no, because that's old school. That's
Yeah.
what you just said. What I just forgot it already.
old
What
school, yeah. I mean, so that's pushing unk. That's pushing unk.
pushing unk? Yeah,
So-
see, that's pushing unk. I was pushing unk there.
So
Don't I sound like I know what I'm talking about?
the next time that your son gets like animal style fries at In-N-Out, be like, oh, that's some big back activity right there.
That's some big back activity, man. I gotta write this down. Like, okay, I'm pushing unk. Okay, I gotta write it down.
Janae, I know you got to go. Get out of here. Get to the.
Activity. Got it. Pushing unk. Okay, got it. Cool.
Yes.
Thank you.
I want to have you on the show again, and I'll be talking with you soon. It is phenomenal to have you on. You're better than advertised, and thank you for your sarcasm, your wisdom, and how could people, if they want more of Janae, how can they get more of Janae?
Of this unlimited supply of sarcasm and joking. Just kidding. It's unlimited, guys. I'm here every weekday. No, I have a podcast called the Becoming Young podcast.
Yep.
So I am pushing unk, meaning I'm getting old. But I refuse to embody being old. And by the way, just so you know, I do not dye my hair yet. I'm very proud of this fact, and I'm 42. And I've decided, and I can change my mind if I want, but I have decided if I go gray, which I don't really intend to, I'm not going to dye my hair. I'm going to let it get salt and peppery, and have long, gorgeous gray hair. But I don't want to get older just because the years are going by. So I want to stay as young as possible, as long as possible. Not because I want to look good, although I do want to look good. Because remember, back to the whole I'm selfish thing. Okay, now that we've cleared that out of the way, I want to live the fullest, best life that I possibly can. And one of the reasons to do that is to live as long as I can, because I know what it feels like to see a life cut short and what that does to the people you love. But also, if you're going to live a long time, I don't want to be decrepit. So when I'm 120, I am going to be trekking up my apple orchard to pick apples, and then they're going to be like, oh, yeah, there's Janae. How old is that lady again? She's like 120. Man, she looks like she's 60. And I'll be like, that's right, bitches. I do. Because I can run circles around 60-year-olds at 120. Okay, so this is the objective, right? So the Becoming Young podcast, living the best life you can, defying the years going by, feeling better today than you did yesterday. Those are all the things that we teach on this podcast. And it's a passion of mine because, well, again, like I said, I want to look good, but I want to feel good. And so as the years go by, I just, I do get wiser. That is so cool. And what's so cool about that is, as we all age, we gain that wisdom. And if our body starts dying in the process of the wisdom that we're gaining, that's a really sad switch of, now I have all the wisdom that I need and I can't play out my best life anymore. And I don't want that for me, for my kids, or for any of our audience members. So we have a 12-month program where we go through, all of the little things you can do to stay young, but also, our objective on the podcast is just to teach those things. And like I shared before, I love teaching. So I like seeing that aha, and it's all the little things that accumulate to create a life well lived. And so that accumulation is my objective in this life now, is to help us all find the little things that make life better. And, humor and sarcasm and sometimes vitamins are the answer.
Well, you are amazing. Thank you, Janae, and get to your flight. And
yes, I've got to go.
Yes.
My kids, fatherless kids. I had to send one of my kids to military school because he just needs a dad to keep him in line. And since he doesn't have one, because his dad went paragliding and got killed, I had to send him to military school. So here we go.
There we go. Well, it's honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. And Janae, you're officially off the hot seat.
Thank you.
Peace, love, and soul.
Love it.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Working certain we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.